I'm Diego Cortez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. We've had Layne Flack on for 2 parts already. He's earned part 3, the first guest in the history of The Scoop.
I'm tired of it already, but I think we'll just go ahead with part 3.
If you haven't watched parts 1 or 2, and most importantly parts 1 and 2, it's on Card Player TV, and make sure you check it out. The one thing that I heard, you can confirm or not, is, I mean, from the time I've known you, you were always a fun-loving guy who enjoyed a good time and so forth, but that you really had not been a drug user until
never touched a drug
recently. And then when you did get into it, you got into it relatively hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's, I guess, you know, I'm not going to mention names, but I remember Adam. I mean, I remember going to, I was best man at a friend's wedding, and then he went to the military, and like, I think I was like 27, we went to visit some of his friends, and they were passing around a joint. I said, if you touch that, we're no longer friends.
Right.
That's how anti I was. I mean, just a straight arrow. And then I tried like an E-pill or something that somebody I trusted, and I think you both know who it is.
Ecstasy, you're referring to.
Yeah, and and then from there it was like, everything I do, full force, hence
Yes.
the ATV accident. So I wasn't aware of that I was going to continue to do things very good in this point. And not only that, I was uneducated, obviously, in the dangers or what it was. I just thought everything was great. I was winning, I had the money, I didn't have to be anywhere, and until I thought I had a hold of it, until I found it had a hold of me.
And then how did you get out of that?
I went to a rehab, which it helped, but it didn't conquer. And then I think I wrote it in the Card Player magazine, and now I actually got inducted into one of Helmsley's books of the top 13 greatest poker players of all time, and I did a chapter in there and I labeled it. But there's a guy named, you've seen the movie Color of Money, portrayed the character past Eddie Felsen. Yep. Well, he's actually a life coach, and he's a 10-year specialist covert overt counselor that started the movement acts in the 50s, and he's dedicated his life to understanding and counseling and of the human emotion and people.
And he's really helped you.
Yeah, I've been with him. I was with him for a year, 2 or 3 days a week before the World Series came up, and now is what you do is you go through a degree of tech, and then you start on strategizing your life, or it's kind of like a movie. You can pick the ending of how you want your life to be, and then you go with it.
I mean, this was the real difference that I saw in you, because I had seen you where you weren't high in the prior 5 years, but like when I saw you before the World Series this year, you were, for you, calm, making a lot of sense, playing golf relatively well.
I mean, the way I delivered sentences made sense. It's
so that's why
the calmness and the focus, and
then you told me about
this. The big part of it is a desire. I mean, it's interesting. People will say, well, if you're high, or if you're just not living your life right, and you're not going to be playing at your best. Some people, maybe they do play well or can play under the circumstances, but if you don't have the desire, if you don't care, then you're not going to play well. You have to be motivated.
I think every drug has a different powering force in you, and not only like when you start out with drugs, you think you can do anything, but they will turn on you, and when that happens, now you're screwed.
If they sap your motivation, then you can't really overcome that.
The number one thing, that my life coach said to me, he says, Layne, it takes a lot of courage for you to walk in here every day. You have to admit your faults, your problems, and everything, and then want to change. He says, and every day you could give up. He says, but every day you come back in here and you fight, and you have the courage, and you forgive yourself, and you handle it. And handling was the hardest part, because I went through a lot of days of pain. And I could make one phone call and make that go away, and I just stood with it. So it was important. A lot of people do not come back from this, a situation like that.
I'd say most and especially in the poker world. One thing is that in the gambling business, if you have a leak, it really can get a hold of you, because you don't have the other structure or the other influences. So
I mean, a lot of people have maybe, however they want to perceive me, they look at me and they can frown on me, or they can whatever because of whatever. But I do know this, and it's not about what other people think, it's about what I think. And I know what I came back from took more than any accomplishment I've ever done in a tournament.
I agree with that.
And you've come back. I mean, we know people who haven't. I mean,
I know a lot of people
very talented, and who we all know would have been champions. And,
Absolutely.
You know, and they're not.
I mean,
because-
the most classic example would be Stu Ungar, who I don't know if I don't know him personally, but poker champion, multiple bracelet champion, like Layne, he didn't come back. So
we talked about how that was a drought and you're going through these difficult times. It coincided exactly, as we said, with the poker boom, the post-Chris Moneymaker boom, with all these new stars being minted and becoming celebrities of a sort. I mean, as a no-limit player, in terms of the respect of your peers and in terms of your accomplishments, in terms of tournaments, because you're not playing a ton of tournaments, you play the big tournaments, you've won a bunch of them, your name kind of faded. I mean, the new kids, you know, probably had heard the name or knew that you'd won, but you weren't on TV in these WPT events and all the 15 episodes of ESPN or whatever it is. Did that get to you or motivate you? Is that not a factor in issue to you?
It didn't get to me. It did motivate me, you know, to the point of, you know, somebody would come out and win a tournament and all of a sudden they're this person. And, you know, and I think Matt Savage wrote an article on a site that he does. It says, he says, you guys want to see a no-limit player? He says, you should have been around in 2002.
Yeah.
He says, there was one of the greatest no-limit players that ever lived, that people were whatever. And then he was also another one that predicted I was going to have a great 08, and I came back and won, even though it was in Pot Limit Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
So
Big Bet Poker. I mean,
But, you know, my biggest drive was probably the heart, the fact that I wanted it again.
of course.
And also, you know, for sure, not like I'm doing a trophy award here or whatever. I do think the people that I've elected to choose as my friends, you know, which a couple of them are not in poker, but, you know, Phil Hellmuth, you know, stood by me through everything. You know, and my life coach and another guy named Doug, who's, you know, just a developer here in town and stuff. And the friends that I like to hang around, really, Tex Barch, you know, these guys really.
You had to surround yourself with people who were doing positive things and would reinforce what
and
you
that
need to
believed
do.
in
and who
me.
cared
Right.
and you would believe
Yeah,
of course.
and that was, and then I had to separate myself from the rest.
Are you? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, it speaks very well of Phil, who we've always, say off camera, we've always praised and liked Phil a lot. We make fun of him on camera because he's an easy target.
Well,
but
he has.
this is completely in character in that Phil is a friend who will stand by you.
Oh, he's a loyal
to the
person.
end. And, you know, I'm not surprised to hear, I mean, I didn't know, but I'm not surprised to hear that he actually was a big
Phil, like if I
supporter.
got to points where I felt suicidal. He'd say, "Get on a plane and get up here." I'd fly to Palo Alto and stay at him and his family for a week.
Right.
And he never not answered a phone call. And but I always tell him, I say, Phil, there's the number one question I've always had to answer people is Phil really like that? Is
Right.
Phil really like this?
Everyone, I get it from people. who
If
want to
I said the number one question I have to answer is, what kind of person is Phil Hellmuth? And I mean, he's just an absolutely big-hearted, perfect. He's a well-balanced individual.
There's so many people that Phil has been supportive of, just emotionally, in some cases financially. I mean, where he is the real deal, where he's there when the times are toughest. Not
He
when they're
balances
the
his
best.
kids, he balances his wife, he balances his
Yeah.
family, his businesses, his poker. It's
He deserves
I
the praise
really look up to him.
to
Absolutely.
go along with his bad
His berating
behavior.
of other people. Yeah, he balances.
You know,
He does that well.
yeah, it's a perfect balance.
Yeah.
No, but we legitimately
No,
criticize
we like Phil a
his
lot.
bad behavior, but
Right.
as a person, as a friend, he's been consistent
And the
for
thing is-
20 years or
Right,
more.
that's true. So, are you playing all the majors now? What are your plans for 09?
Yeah. In fact, I went to the Bahamas and I flew over. I was gonna go to Australia, but I went to Biloxi, and just those 2 or 3 hour plane rides caused me so much pain. I just don't think I could have handled that 17-hour flight and back.
Right. So you're gonna rest a little bit, heal up, and then be back.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, I may. Me and Helmuth have a challenge put out. Golf Digest is wanting us to do a thing for a golf thing, and me and Helmuth are going to be, you know, on the team. Again, we're challenging whoever, you know, to do a thing. It'll be a big article for Golf Digest. And as Helmuth says, I got money and I'm willing to gamble.
Maybe Dewey Tomko will take you up on it.
Yeah, bring on. And now the other thing, I may or may not be doing this Trophy Bride or The Bachelorette show. I don't know if you heard
Or
about
one of
that.
those.
Casting directors have called me and I spoke with them, and they really want me to come on the
All
show.
right, we'll look for that.
You made a
And that
reality
was,
show.
yeah,
guy.
with Megan Hauserman. She won Beauty and the Geek or whatever. Now it's called The Trophy Bride. She's a Playboy Playmate. I think it'll
But
be
you
an
can't
itch.
lose. You can't lose.
You know, I mean, I've done everything else. You know, why not
Why
give
not?
this a try, right? Now, it's not a guarantee I do it or I go on it,
We'll
but I'm
look for that. And
Layne, we really appreciate you coming by and being so frank. Now you are clear-eyed and lucid, so we expect big things
Big
this
09.
year and the next couple of years, back-to-back, 08, 09, and so forth.
Yeah, the funny thing is living up to this, this
Yeah, your pressure.
expectation is a lot harder because it's harder to win tournaments based on the,
Much
the
harder,
field
right.
structure.
To win back-to-back now with 1,000, 2,000 person fields would be something
we'll
crazy,
take one
but-
bracelet this year.
But regardless, your position is secure. You are one of the top players.
Yeah, I guess I moved into an elite group having 6 bracelets. There's 5
Six is pretty strong.
Strong.
6 is strong.
And I'm pretty happy with this title, the best batting average at the final table.
Yeah.
I guess Stu Unger had 10 final tables, 5 wins, and I now have 12 final tables, 6 wins. So,
I like it.
Batting the
That's
highest.
because when you get to the final table, you bring the chips. That helps.
well, actually, that was one of the other hardest things is
Which I witnessed.
going through the 3 or 4 year drought.
Oh.
And now coming back and all the players have changed.
Yeah.
I now had to come up and create a whole new strategy based on everybody was using the one I used.
Yeah.
You know, that offensive power play.
We've talked this before, that the fact that the aggressive players, the real ultra aggressive players, had a huge advantage. Now everyone's ultra aggressive. Now you've got to readjust.
Yeah, I have a reputation of this, so it's like I go in with, when I teach people how to play poker, I say this: you use your table image, you create a table image, and then you abuse it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And since poker's hit TV and everything, I already have a table image that's already labeled. Now I got to use it based on what they have seen or what I do at the table now, and it's different.
Very good. Thanks again.
Thank you, Layne.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Join us for the F-Tops on Full Tilt Poker, starting February 4th. And write to us at thescoop@cardplayer.com.
2 bracelets. Awesome.
Well, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my last. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So, I had to call. We play at FullTiltPoker.com.